as long as namamayagpag ang pera ng droga at ang pera ng sugal, sapagkat sa mga perang yon nabibili ang marami sa ating mga otoridad.
Sa siyam na madugo na brutal na pag-atake laban sa mga halal na local government officials
in broad daylight. Patunay lamang po kung gaano kalakas ang loob ng mga taong ito na pumatay kung saan at kailan nila gusto.
Is how spineless murderers shielded by anonymity and hired by gunmen are emboldened to carry out these killings. Over the weekend, we all learned about the fatal attack against Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo, a dear friend to all of us. An ambush that killed not just the long-serving governor, but 8 other individuals, some of whom were civilian constituents who were simply seeking government aid at that time during his 4-piece meeting. This comes as the most recent attack in a string of attacks against incumbent and former government officials, and is the third in just the last month alone. But we cannot afford to be desensitized to incidents like this. We cannot accept these attacks as a normal part of our culture. We cannot let violence like this terrorize our people and force us all to live in fear. In the last few months alone, Mr. President, we have seen the senseless murders of Governor Degamo, Cagayan Vice Mayor Alameda, former Lamitan City Basilan Mayor Rose Furigay, former Lobo Batangas Vice Mayor Romeo Sulit, and former Samar Mayor Miguel Abaygay. Some of their companions and colleagues have also met their deaths in these attacks. Worse yet, and part of my list should be the ambush of Governor Adyong. And let me correct the newspaper accounts. He was not ambushed in Bukidnon. He was ambushed in Wao, Lanao del Sur, but was taken to hospital in Bukidnon for treatment. And of course, the Abra mayor that was killed just this week. And also the mayor from Maguindanao was ambushed as well after attending the League of Municipalities of the Philippines here in Manila. Worse yet, Mr. President, are the deaths of innocent civilians who have nothing at all to do with whatever motivations are behind these assassinations. To target government officials is dastardly, but to involve hapless civilians is downright evil. We can even consider this, and I'm beside the minority floor leader who was a bar top-notcher, we can even consider this ambush to be an act of terrorism. Under Section 4A of Republic Act 11479 or the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, a terrorism is committed by any person. A terrorist act is committed by any person who engaged in acts intended to cause death or serious bodily injury to any person or endanger a person's life. And clearly, lives were lost and other victims suffered serious injuries during this ambush. And the crime committed is intended to intimidate the general public. Clearly, what they did was they wanted to show and sow fear with the people. Was a statement. It was a statement that they wanted to make. And as I said, clearly, it is intended to intimidate the general public and create an atmosphere or spread of message of fear. Atmosphere of fear or spread the message of fear, which qualifies as a crime, as an act of terrorism under our law. Kaya, Ginoong Pangulo, dapat lahat po ng perpetrators na to, ang killers, should be treated as terrorists, including its mastermind, whoever the mastermind may be, should be considered as terrorist and, of course, enemy of the state. By now, many of us have probably seen the CCTV footage of the ambush of Governor Degamo's compound. We saw how the constituents were patiently lined up in their chairs, waiting for the governor to attend to them as beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pamilya Pilipino program. Walang kamalay-malay, walang kalaban-laban. Ganyan silang pinatay para mga baboy lang nakakatay, ikakatay at gagawing lechon. Think of those constituents, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear President. And think of their families waiting for them to bring home a little aid that Sunday morning, or that Saturday morning rather, only to be met with devastating news of their death. Nakarumal-dumal na pagkapatay sa kanila. This is not just a matter of being at the wrong place at the wrong time. That assumes that the ambush was inevitable. We must not let these heinous crimes pass as an inevitability. This is how the culture of impunity continues to grow, and this is how spineless murderers shielded by anonymity and hired by gunmen are emboldened to carry out these killings. This is why, Mr. President, we are appealing urgently to the Philippine National Police, our law enforcement agencies, to step up their efforts against these killings. That means arresting the perpetrators behind the Degamo ambush, yes, but it also means preventing similar crimes from happening in the future. Naubos na po ang tiwala ng taong bayan na kaya silang protektahan ng gobyerno. Every incident like this ambush, is a failure of police intelligence, of police visibility, and our peace and security efforts. We have already failed Governor Degamo and his constituents. We cannot keep on failing, not when lives are at stake. So we call on the PNP to live up to their mandate to serve and to protect the Filipino people. Kamay na bakal na po ang kailangan natin, Mr. President. Parang hindi na natatakot itong mga killers na ito, hired man o politically motivated. Kailangan silang matuto na unang-una, pag may ginawa silang krimen, let the full weight and full force of the law be put upon them. And without fear or favor, pagkaganyan ay malaking deterrence na yan in the future na may mangyari sa ating mga kababayan. So once again, Mr. President, I seek the support of our dear colleagues for the passage of this measure. And we also like to remind the PNP and the forces in charge of protecting our people to do double time their work protecting our republic.
Nakakapangilabot, nakakagigil, nakakagalit. Lantaran ng pang-aabuso ng mga masamang loob na tila wala nang sinasanto. Mr. President, the recent assassination of Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo is truly at the height of atrocity. Masahol pa sa hayop ang paglalapastangan sa ating batas. Sobra na ang pangangamba ng taong bayan sa mga sunod-sunod na tila pagdiyos-diyosan ng mga halang na kaluluwang mga kriminal. The brazeness of these attacks is as revolting as it is enraging. Pati mga walang kinalaman na nandoon nang dahil lamang sa ayuda ay walang habas na pinagbabaril hanggang sa mamatay ng walang kalaban-laban. Mga babae, mga bata, matanda. Hindi na tao mga ito, Ginoong Pangulo. Sila ay mga demonyo na pera-pera lang. Mga kampo ni Satanas na hindi na dapat pamarisan at wala ng puwang sa ating lipunan. This is obviously a systematic gun-for-hire attack. Kaya nga ang mas malalim na katanungan, sino ba ang nasa likod ng krimen na ito? The gunmen are but small fishes. Ang kailangan nating tugisin ay ang mga masters. So to speak, we already have the bullets that killed. But these bullets will not discharge by themselves without those who aim them at the target and cause them to be fired. Sila ang mga duwag na nagtatago sa likod ng armas at pera. Silang nakaupo ng matiwasay habang dumadanak ang dugo sa walang saysay nilang demonstrasyon na huwad na kapangyarihan. We call on our law enforcement authorities to exact accountability, tugisin, panagutin at turuan ng leksyon na kailanman hindi nila malilimutan. Hasain ang pangil ng batas upang sagpangin ang mga kampon ng kasamaan na yan. Mr. President, this is as much as a protest against the monstrosity of these despicable criminals as it is a call to action. While the efforts of the PNP and the authorities are making headway in showing we are in charge, there is still much to be done. Kailangan tuloy-tuloy niyong ipakita na you are still in control of the situation. These perpetrators feed on the chaos that they will feel much bigger if you do not take control. But in doing so, be thorough and be sure. Siguraduhin natin ang mga tunay na may kagagawan na mga kaguluhang ito ang siyang mapanagot at maparusahan. Tiyakin natin na hindi sila makakatakas at makakaiwas sa pananagutan. Mr. President, these attacks are an affront to our democracy. In a span of just 5 months, 5 buwan, Mr. President, umaabot na sa 9 na madugo na brutal na pag-atake laban sa mga halal na local government officials kung saan mahigit na 20 buhay ang nasayang dahil lang sa bayarang berdugong ito. Kaya dapat lamang naputulin na natin ang kanilang sungay sa mga nasa likod ng kabuktutang ito. Hindi araw-araw piyesta kayong mga demonyo. The great day of reckoning is coming. Para sa mga pamilya naman na naulila, mga naiwan, panghawakan ninyo na pangako namin, nakasanggan nyo kami sa paniningil. While we join you in your anguish, we likewise rally behind you in your quest for justice. Dito sa Senado, makakaasa kayong mananatili kaming mulat at magmamatsyag at dudurugin natin ang mga yan ng pinong-pino. Lest the wicked forgets, you can run, you can hide, but when the Lady Justice catches up, the sword shall swing, and when it does, it will bow to no one.
The life of a public servant is a life of great sacrifice. We in the government are mandated to serve our people. In pursuing this calling, we often have rough encounters with the forces of evil. Often we are reminded that we are only mere mortals. These past few months, we have all witnessed the spate of killings and violence against some local officials and innocent private individuals. Local executives who have faithfully served their constituents were either killed or seriously injured by merciless perpetrators whose motives were huts in the deepest recesses of hell. The impunity and brutality instilled horror, anxiety, and panic among our people. This poses an enormous challenge to our law enforcement authorities, particularly the Philippine National Police. Peace and order must be restored in our communities and ensure that the criminals behind these evil deeds be held accountable. I would like to extend my heartfelt condolences to the family of the late Governor Ruel Ragay Degamo of Negros Oriental. Mr. President, during the last Congress, the good governor appeared before the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs and shed light on the series of killings in his province. Never have I thought that Governor Degamo himself would be a victim of the killings he has condemned. It is unimaginable unacceptable, and heartbreaking that he would suffer the same tragic end in his home province that he faithfully and lovingly served. He was optimistic and shared his campaign to improve the law and order situation in Negros Oriental, uphill battle that he had to face. I likewise grieve with the families of other local officials who have been victims of savagery and barbarity. Words cannot express the sadness and despair of their families and constituents. To the PNP and other law enforcement agencies, you are expected to rise above and take control of the situation, reestablish law and order. Today, more than ever, your presence and concerted efforts in providing security to the community are urgently needed. Respond to this call and be true to your mission in upholding public safety and security for our people.
President and distinguished colleagues, I stand before you today with immense sadness as we take into consideration this measure before us. First of all, I condole with the family of the late Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo. Isang Bisaya rin po. I have known him for being a loyal ally during the Duterte administration and a reliable partner in public service. Governor Degamo died while literally serving his constituents. Last Saturday, the late governor was there working for the people of Negros Oriental. He was truly a servant of the people. Nakikiramay rin po ako sa pamilya ng iba pang nasawi sa pangyayaring ito. Katulad rin po ng kanilang gobernador, marami din po ang nasawi at nasaktan ay andun upang maglingkod sa kapwa nating Pilipino. Mr. President, huwag nating hayaan na manaig po ang mga masasamang loob na walang hiyang pumapatay ng kapwa-tao. Ang nangyari po kay Governor Degamo ay isa lamang po sa mga dumaraming kaso ng pagpatay ng mga government officials at private individual sa ating bansa na kapag hindi po naagapan ay baka lumagana pa. Noon pong nakaraan na taon, napakarami pong local executives na hindi rin po pinalagpas ng mga mamamatay tao na ito. Several killing incidents even took place in broad daylight. Patunay lamang po kung gaano kalakas ang loob ng mga taong ito na pumatay kung saan at kailan nila gusto. Mr. President, local executives na po ito, if they were not spared, paano na lang po yung mga ordinaryong mamamayan na hindi kayang protektahan ang mga sarili nila. To our authorities, magtulungan po tayo. Buo po ang aking suporta at tiwala sa inyo sa pag-imbestiga sa mga insidenteng ito. Gawin po natin ang lahat ng ating makakaya to make sure that justice will be served. Let us continue to uphold and protect the rights and safety of our people. Iparamdam po natin sa kanila that we are doing our best to make sure that they are secured dahil nandito ang kanilang gobyerno. Let us not afraid in doing our work for our people. Let us not waver in our commitment as servants of the people. Instead, we must be more steadfast and more committed to do what we swore to do for our country and the Filipino people. The life of Governor Degamo is an inspiration for all of us to do everything that we can as public servants while we still can. No, minsan lang tayo dadaan sa mundong ito. Gawin na po natin ang lahat ng tulong at kabutihan na pwede natin gawin sa ating kapwa. I call on our authorities to pursue and arrest the rest of the perpetrators of this dastardly and cowardly act which also harm innocent civilians. Justice must be served for the family and the people of Negros Oriental. There's no place for this kind of violence in a democracy such as ours.
Noong Sabado ng umaga, napanood ko po yung CCTV video na ipinasa po sa akin through the Senate chat, group chat. At ako po'y nagimbal. Short of saying, halos hindi po ako makahinga at hindi makapaniwala na hindi po aking mga balahibo dahil daig pa yung nasa pelikula yung ginawa pong assault ng 5 katao na may bitbit ng mga high-powered firearms, walang kaabog-abog, nagpaputok, pinaputukan lahat. Walang kaabog-abog, pinaputukan ang ilang mga bodyguards, maging ang ilang mga sibilyan. Ang tanong, Bakit ang lakas ng loob ng mga ito para gawin ang karumaldumal na krimen na yun? Ang tanong, ulit, kung yun po ay nagawa sa isang tao, sa isang opisyal ng gobyerno, pinakamataas pa man din na ranggo sa isang probinsya, governor so to speak, na gwardyado, ano pa kaya sa mga ordinary nating mamamayan? Although ako po'y nagpapasalamat sa ating mga otoridad, PNP and the military, dahil nahuli na po ang ilan sa mga suspects. At meron pa nga doon isa na namatay. However, meron pa rin pong pakukulang ating mga otoridad. Maybe sa intelligence. Ang pagkakaalam ko po, matagal na nakakatanggap ng death threat si Governor Roel Degamo. Now, kung siya po'y nakatanggap ng death threat, sana man lang ang ating mga otoridad, lalo ng mga kapulisan, gumawa ng paraan na para siya ay mabigyan ng maayos na proteksyon. Kitang-kita po doon sa video na walang police presence, wala pong police visibility, wala pong police mobile car. Nakapasok po yung mga salarin, kumatok sa gate, isang maliit, maybe a bodyguard, ang humarap doon sa mga suspect at agad pinutukan. Mr. President, paulit-ulit na lang nangyari ito. In the past few days, sunod-sunod po ang pagka-assassinate sa mga taong gobyerno, sa mga may posisyon sa gobyerno. Well, alam po na mga kinukulan kung sino mga suspect. Itong nangyari ngayon kay Governor Degamo, alam na alam ng lahat. Pati siguro po yung pusang kalye, alam kung sinong suspect. Pero, bakit wala pa rin ginagawa ang otoridad? Proseso, sabi nila. Of course, we have to go to the process. Pero sana man lang, someone has to speak and to tell the truth. Sana, isa doon sa mga nahuling suspect, lumantad at sabihin agad kung sino ang kanyang amo, kung sino ang mastermind. Nakakalungkot nga lang, Mr. President, nangyayari ito at mangyari pa muli as long as namamayagpag ang pera ng droga at ang pera ng sugal, sapagkat sa mga perang yon nabibili ang marami sa ating mga otoridad. Nakakalungkot naman lang sabihin to, Mr. President, pero that is the truth. Kaisa po ako sa lahat na para hanapan ng solusyon, matigil ang karasang ganito.
Mr. President, I would like to convey my strong association, Senate Resolution number 517. It is indeed heartbreaking to listen to news reports about the seemingly wanton assaults and killings of our incumbent and former elected officials. Most recent of which is the assassination of Governor Roel Degamo of Negros Oriental, right at his place of residence in broad daylight and in company of his constituents. Ginong Pangulo, kung ating mga halal na opisyales na pinakamataas pa ang katungkulan sa kanilang LGUs ay hindi ligtas sa ganitong panganib, paano pa nga po kaya ang ating mga ordinaryong mamamayan? Hindi ko rin po alam ang sagot sa tanong na ito. Pero ang alam ko lang ay wala po tayong ibang aasahan kundi ang agarang aksyon ng ating kapulisan at ang mas epektido at mas maigting pang anti-criminality program ng ating Philippine National Police, ng ating LGUs at ng ating pang ibang law enforcement agencies at public order and safety auxiliary and augmentation forces. A couple of months ago, we have taken up these issues during our discussions on the SIM card registration bill, and now we are back to deliberating on issues on criminality. But at least now we know that we have positively and concretely contributed to the nation's anti-criminality efforts with the recent passage of the SIM Registration Act. Kung panunurin naman po natin ang mga CCTV footages na ma-ambush nito, ay masasaksihan natin ang mga walang pakundangang pagpatay, parang wala ng takot ang mga guns for hire nito at para bang sinusubok ang ating kakayahan mapanagot sila sa kanilang krimen. Kaya naman po, ang aking marubdob na panawagan sa ating kinaukulan na huwag tigilan ang paglutas sa mga kasong ito. Naplakahan na natin ang mga sasakyang ginamit kung ito ay tunay na plaka o mga nakaw plaka at nakuna naman ng CCTV ang mga nagnakaw na ito. At least ay may mahalagang lead na po tayo. Meron tayong mga CCTV footages, meron pong mga witnesses, at meron malakas na panawagan para sa hustisya para sa ating mga pinatay na lingkod bayan. I also call on the PNP to please intensify its crime investigation and solution program, particularly on these guns for hire cases. Lagi naman pong naka-uniforme ng pulis o sundalo ang mga salaring ito. Meron pong batas na nagpaparusa sa illegal na pagsuot at paggamit ng mga uniforming ito. Meron naman pong pulisiya, ang PNP at ang AFP na dapat ay laging coordinated ang mga operasyon at galaw ng kanilang mga tao kada papasok sa ibang teritoryo, maging ito'y mga secret missions pa. Kung meron sanang lagi pumupuna, nagre-report at umaaksyon ng mga kahina-hinalang galaw ng mga uniformadong taong ito, ay marami po sana ang krimen na doon pa lang ay napigilan na. Kung mas marami pa po sana ang checkpoints at choke points, lalo na doon sa mga kalsadang posibleng gamitin sa pagtakas ng kanilang mga getaway vehicles, ay naampatan na rin sana ang mga krimen na ito. Lalo na rin siguro kung mas gagalingan pa ng ating Philippine National Police ang kanilang intelligence operations at crime solution capabilities, pati na rin ang kanilang forensics capacity. Kayo na rin ang kakayang matukoy agad ang mga mastermind sa likod ng mga pagpapatay na ito bago pa sila makatakas sa pananagutan ng batas. Hindi po kailangan masayang ang buhay ng nasirang Governor Royal Degamo at ng iba pang opisyales at ng mga inosenteng buhay na nadamay. Bagamat hindi po nag-expire ang panawagan para sa hustisya, ay hindi rin naman po magiging makatarungan kung hahayaan na lamang natin sila na dumagdag pa sa statistics ng ating unsolved crimes. Nananawagan po ako para sa malawakang pagtutulungan sa mga sangay ng ating DILG, DOJ at ng PNP para sa maigting na peace, order and safety, security at justice system sa ating bansa.